All right, welcome back, fellow jazz bums. Recently, we got some news that Kraft Recordings is putting out a Miles Davis box set. It's going to focus on his prestige 1954 recordings. Before we get into it, remember to like and subscribe. It helps the channel out. We also have the Jazz Bums Discord, which will drop an invite in the description below. And we also live stream every Friday, so come and check us out there as well. All right, let's get into it. Chris, what do you think about this box set?
I think it's very interesting. It's like you said, it's all the stuff he recorded for Prestige in 1954 specifically. This was after he had gotten off of heroin, basically, and he came back to New York clean in February of 54. And the first session was in March of 54, and the last session was on Christmas Eve in 1954. And we're going to go through, these were all originally released as 10 inches, so we'll go through those, and they're also available on 12-inch, along with a bunch of other material. And the thing that's kind of neat about this box to me is it's all from this 1 year of his outputs that happened 70 years ago. This is 70th anniversary of all these recordings.
Yeah, and when I heard this news, I have a lot, if not all, of Miles's prestige stuff on 12-inch. So I was like, well, what is this? Do I have it? And I think I have almost everything. There might be some alt tracks that are included in here, but we figured we'll go through the 10-inch stuff, which we don't have the 10-inch records, but they were put out on 4 12 inches, which we'll show in a little bit. But just for just for fun, we want to just take a look at the 10 inches. We'll go through them pretty quickly. There's 5 of them or so. So with that, I'll share my screen and we'll kind of get into it. And what we really wanted to focus on was these are all 10 inches. I think there's 5 of them. And they do, we won't go through all the songs, but I really wanted to focus on who's playing on these. So on this first one, it's really just side 2. That's 1954. 1953 side 1 is 1953. So when we look at side 2, we have a quartet of Miles Davis, Horace Silver, Percy Heath, and Art Blakey. So it's a quartet with Miles in front with that great rhythm section. And that's the first session we start with. This is also not recorded at Hackensack. It's recorded at WOR. Actually, I think it's Belton this session, which I'm not too familiar with that studio. And I think the subsequent ones we'll look at are all Hackensack. Yep. And I mentioned that because people love Hackensack recordings. They sound really good. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one, Miles Davis All-Star Sextet. So these are just 2 tracks. You can see the length is 22 minutes for this 10-inch. One Walkin' is one of my favorite jazz recordings ever. I absolutely love that track. And this has Miles Davis, J.J. Johnson, Lucky Thompson, Horace Silver, Percy Heath, and Kenny Clark. Recorded Hackensack, April 1954. I'm just going to keep going. There's 3 more, and then we'll jump out of it. So this one is April 3, 1954, and it includes Solar, which is a Miles Davis. It's almost like a standard. I think he re-recorded that on Miles Smiles with the second great quintet, Wayne Shorter and everybody. And then on this, you have Dave Schlidkraut, Horace Silver, Percy Heath, and Kenny Clark. And then we have 2 more. So this next one is where we have the great song Oleo, which this is the first recording of Oleo with Miles leading. There's a second one that's on, it's on Relaxin' with the Miles Davis Quintet, and that is Outstanding with John Coltrane. But this is a Sonny Rollins tune, and Sonny Rollins is playing on this one, so this is also a great one to have. So Sonny Rollins, Horace Silver, Percy Heath, and Kenny Clark. This is Hackensack, June. So summer of 54 here, and really great tracks on this. So, I mean, Walkin', Oleo, I mean, there are just some classic Miles Davis songs on this. And then finally, we have this session, which is on Christmas Eve, 1954. And this is where you have the famous Bags Groove session. So Bags Groove, Swing Spring, Bemsha Swing, and The Man I Love. And this one has Milt Jackson, Thelonious Monk, Percy Heath, and Kenny Clark. So there's a lot of great tracks on this. And yeah, I mean, I think if you don't have this material, this is something definitely to check out one way or another.
No, I absolutely agree with that. And what's neat about those 10 inches is you see on so many of them, they have like 10-minute song, 13-minute songs, this is when they were finally able to like record things that were longer than 3 minutes, right? Because before the 10-inch, you were on 78s and you had 3 minutes and that was it. So pretty cool that they were able to stretch out. The other thing that really is impressive about all this music to me is, well, one, the rhythm sections, right? Like Percy Heath, Art Blakey,
Tour
Horace
Silver.
Silver, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, just Kenny Clark, right? Um, so those are crazy. And then the other sidemen he had with him, like Rollins and Monk and Milt Jackson. So there's a bunch of different groups, but there's like kind of a core on most of them, which is, you know, Miles and in that rhythm section with other dudes
Yeah.
kind of coming in the different sessions, which you don't really see later on, right? Like he had his first great quintet, his second great quintet, and those were, I mean, I love all that music, but those were it's kind of set lineups for several years.
Yeah, that's a great point. I do feel like when people dive into Miles, his earlier stuff, it really does focus on that first quintet. For the most part, those are great recordings. John Coltrane, you know, was it Red Garland, Paul Chambers, Philly Joe Jones? I mean, just killer material. But the earlier you go back, I mean, he's playing with Sonny Rollins on this. You know, he's playing with Monk. I mean, and you're right. Like the groups are much more kind of like the Prestige style, where it's like Weinstock basically got a group of guys in New York and drove them over to Hackensack, and it was like whoever showed up was part of the session. I don't know if it was as flippant as that, but I mean
Sure.
that's kind of like how the stories are told with these. Whereas where you know he had a quintet that he played with consistently. And then you know obviously that changed over the years too a little bit, but yeah, I think this is a great era. I really have a great appreciation of this early Miles Davis work. The more I listen to jazz, the more I kind of appreciate his kind of simple playing style, and I mean simple as just like not like a Dizzy Gillespie or like a Lee Morgan where they're just like ripping like just like burning on the
Mm-hmm.
trumpet, where it's just much more like simple and tasteful. I think this is a great era. It's the style is earlier stuff, so that's what you'll be getting into. But I think
Well,
it's
you
it's
got
it's,
yeah.
it's it's done so well that I really I think that it's extremely enjoyable and just cool to hear.
Mm-hmm. Well, you got a lot of the guys that invented the modern music too. I mean, you got Thelonious Monk on there. You got Kenny Clark. Um,
Yep.
you know, I mean, the thing with Miles for me is I just don't know of especially on the trumpet. I don't know of a player that was more vulnerable in his playing. I mean, he played with space. He didn't play as many notes as he could, but every note he played seemed like it really counted for something. And I mean, just the emotional content that he put into his music was really special. And I think that's why people gravitate towards him so much.
Yeah. And like the contrast for me, like I've been getting into like Harry Sweets Edison, Roy Eldridge, Dizzy Gillespie, and you hear those guys, and they're incredible players. And they came up in a different. I mean, Miles did come up with them on 52nd Street too, but I think they were a little older, and they I think had more of like that like trumpet battle, like sax battle mentality, where like and I just when you compare those guys playing to Miles, like it is just a huge difference in style.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so cool and tasteful and all of that stuff. I mean, it's kind of incredible, what he did, and how he differentiated himself. And the story is that he did that on purpose because he knew he couldn't play like that. So he kind of honed like his own sound where he was comfortable and had the ability to kind of own it. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so this like really kind of shows. And the thing is, when you listen to the earlier stuff, like there's a 53 session on like I think it's collector's items, and he's playing with like Charlie Parker, and Charlie Parker is like drunk in the studio playing apparently, and like the session is just compared to the 54 stuff and later, it's just a little different because it's Miles is you know sober or off drugs, and he's just taking it more serious, and the music benefits from that. You can hear it. So
Yeah, I
so
mean, I
yeah.
think a comparison would be to look at the stuff, those 1500 series blue notes, the volume 1 and volume 2. I don't like those nearly as
Yeah.
much as this stuff. I
Yeah.
just don't. I don't think he was in a good place when he recorded that stuff. Not that it's bad or anything. It's just not nearly as good as this stuff. Do you
Yeah.
want to show the packaging on the craft site so people can see
Yeah,
what it?
let's do that. Let's do that. So we have okay, so this we'll drop this in the description if anybody wants to find it quickly. But so the packaging here is it's a 4 LP, so 4 12-inch. These are all like 180 gram. It doesn't say where these are pressed. It does say that they are mastered by Paul Blakemore,
Okay.
mastering engineer Paul Blakemore. There's going to be liner notes by Ashley Kahn. Okay, so yeah, so that is who mastered it, and Ashley Kahn did the liner notes. And yeah, it's coming in a box. Because it's a box, this would fall under the remit of Nick Phillips, who we've had on the channel before. He handles the box projects for Craft. So we will try to get him back on the channel and talk with him about this if he's available. I think that would be really fun.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it comes with this book here and 4 LPs for this box. And the box looks nice. So what do you think about this?
I think it's great. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to buy it or not, just because I think I have all. I actually don't have all of this. So let's go through the 12 inches that a lot of this material is on.
Okay, yeah. All right. So I have pretty much all of this except for I think like an alternate take or two that they're including on this. But just in no particular order. There's Miles Davis Blue Haze. This actually is, I think, has the first material from March on it, as well as I think material from 53. So it's not all of this, but it's a good amount. So it has, so Blue Haze has 54 session work on it. You also have Bags Groove, obviously. This is the last one, the Christmas Eve session. So this has all of that. And I think it also has some other stuff that's non-54, but you have the Bags Groove session here. Walkin, one of my favorites. So this is 54 session 2. So Miles Davis Walkin. This is a 12-inch version. So these are two 10 inches that are on this. And then the fourth one here is Miles Davis and the Modern Jazz Giants. So this one also has 54 sessions. So between the 4 of these, if you have these, you should be set with pretty much all of it, plus a little bit more from like 53. But yeah, so it's pretty much these 4 albums. But they did it in a way where it kind of deconstructed it and just did 1954 sessions. And I think that the track order is chronological. So it starts just the first sessions throughout the last, and it does include the alternate takes. So it is a great year for Miles when he comes back, gets in the studio, and he's just recording with some of the greatest. So it is definitely a cool box.
No, it is a cool box, and if you don't have all this material, I would definitely recommend just buying this box, unless you want to go hunt down those 4 records. Now, so the Bags Groove came out on. Chad did that as part of the AP.
Yeah, you can get
series. Blue Haze, I don't know, maybe an OJC or something, right?
Yeah, Blue Haze I think is an OJC. So this one's really cool. I like
that one will be a little harder to source probably. Now, Walkin, who did that? Was that an OJC recently or no?
No, I don't think this is. No? I don't think this has been touched just yet.
Okay. And the other one hasn't either. I don't think.
I don't think so. Walkin might be.
I think I have OJCs of those too, like old school OJCs. I'm gonna look real quick just for Walkin because I can't remember which version I have, but I don't have Blue Haze, which I kind of want. So I don't know, man. Oh, I've got a Japanese version of Walkin. So yeah, that one hasn't been really reissued recently either. So only one of them actually has been reissued recently. The rest of them you're gonna have to go hunt down OJCs or OGs or whatever. So I think we just happen to have all these. The more I'm thinking about this, it's probably gonna be pretty exciting for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think so. I did want to note that it doesn't say that it's AAA, so I'm assuming it's digital, which that's not, it's probably still going to sound great. And it doesn't say where it's being pressed, so it's probably at like Optimal or someplace like that. But if we get Nick on the channel, we'll be sure to ask him about those details.
Yeah, and Craft does such a good job with all these boxes, man. I mean, I haven't had one that sounded bad or was not great ever.
Yeah.
From them, I mean, like the Birth of Bop was all digital, and they made it sound better than it probably ever did.
I have the Charlie Parker one. Was that Craft? Did they put that one out? The Charlie Parker Savoys?
Probably. Yeah.
I think it is. And that's all digital, and those sound great. And honestly, like the early 10-inch pressings of Charlie Parker, they're expensive, and it's hard to find them in really clean condition. So that's a really
one thing that I wish they would have done this is, I guess they couldn't have probably, but it would have been cool if they did them as a 10-inch box.
Yeah,
know?
there is. I think Nick did put out a Miles Davis 10-inch box years ago,
Mhm.
but
That
it's
thing's
like
expensive, though.
I think it's all of his 10-inch material.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
um, this is a little bit more focused, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think it would be cool. Yeah, the first, when I first started diving into it, I'm like, why didn't they just put out like these 4 albums I just showed? And then when I looked at like the session dates, it made sense. The other thing that we didn't mention is it's obviously 1954. It's 2024, so this is the 70th anniversary. So that is also why they're focusing on this year specifically. So it's kind of that's the idea of the project. So
Yeah.
it should, yeah, I mean, it should be good. I'm sure the liner notes will be great. I mean, we just tapped into some of the things that we know, but I'm sure there's a huge rich history that they'll get into about these sessions, which will probably be great to know.
Yeah. Some of
Like
the stuff he
Chris,
said was probably bullshit and wrong too. So
yeah. So yeah, once we get Nick on, he'll straighten us out.
absolutely.
But yeah, so I think Chris, anything else before we get out of here?
No, I think it's a neat project. I think people will like it. That's it.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's a great period for Miles. So for those watching, drop a comment, let us know what you think about this if you're going to pick this up. And yeah, thank you for watching.